Hi, this is Vinney Chopra. Thank you for again joining on my podcast, Apartment Syndication Made Easy. As you know, I wrote that book, which is a top seller in Amazon. Internationally, also got a lot of acclaim, reviews and all. And this podcast is about syndication, about commercial investing. I like to bring great guests for you and dig into their story, their successes, and find out some nuggets from them so that you could really enjoy them and learn from them and then implement them. Hi there, guys. This is Vinney Chopra back again with you with Syndication Made Easy. As you know, I wrote that book, Syndication Made Easy, and now the podcast for the last two and a half years. And I try to bring excellent guests, very top professionals to you. And today I'm very, very excited to have my brother, almost like a brother, Neal Bawa. Who does not know Neal Bawa? I mean, you got to really stay tuned because we're going to talk so much great stuff about different things. Let me introduce Neal. Welcome, brother. Welcome.
Vinney, thanks for having me on the show. It's absolutely awesome to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we're going to give so many nuggets. I know that in the next 20, 30 minutes. Let me introduce you, Neal, if that's okay to the audience. I like to, and a lot of speakers or podcast hosts, they just say, okay, you tell me about you. No, I really believe that it needs to be said ahead of time so that everybody can really, look at what they are facing, what they'll be listening and observing in our interview. So Neal Bawa, by the way, who does not know, like I said, Neal Bawa is a technologist who's universally known in the real estate business, in circles as the Mad Scientist. I remember, everybody says of multifamily, besides being one of the most in-demand speakers in the commercial real estate, Neal is data guru. That's so true. He does so fantastic through his VAs and through his whole organization. I mean, the research they do, it's mind-boggling, guys. So you got to stay on and listen to all these great things we're going to talk about. Neal is a data guru, a process-free to systematize everything and make sure that your business is running correctly and making sure that the investors are taken care of. That's what we're going to talk about today. And he's reaching his AUM, under his belt, almost $1 billion, guys, $1 billion. So billionaire is right here in the house, portfolio and ongoing experiment in efficiency and optimization. That's what I've come to know Neal in the last few years and few months, how he optimizes all those. So please hang on. And the Mad Scientist lives by 2 mantras. I don't mind. I'm from India. Originally, the mantras are very important in life. And his first mantra is that we can only manage what we can measure. So important, so important. I mean, if we cannot measure, what can you get the feedback on? So I totally believe in that, Neal. And his second mantra is that data beats gut feel by 1,000,000 miles. So true. Unless we have the data, why do we make decisions and why do we do so well in real estate, like location, and all those different things? So these mantras have a dozen other disruptive beliefs, drive profits to his 700 plus investors. Congratulations. That's amazing. I really want to tell everybody we're going to talk about 3 major topics today. One is going to be the big data. I mean, Neal is going to throw some bombs over here pretty soon. And then the second one, it's going to be the efficiency through offshore, having VAs, having all these offshoring VAs, 19 of them, I think he has. It's fabulous how to hire them, how to get them going, how to bring accountability. And then the third one, which Neal and I is really joining hands along with him, he's been doing it, is that net carbon neutral world. And that's going to be amazing. Towards the end, we're going to talk about that. So Neal, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Vinney. Amazing intro. And I'm super excited to be here. I really feel that we have an incredible relationship. I've spent time with you, spent time with your wife at your home, and I feel like I strongly resonate with some of the things that you believe in. So it's terrific to be on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll dig right into it. I know you are a very known speaker and you do so many things each week. I was so astonished to see your schedule and, not only for the business, but also personal life and your time with your family, with your wife and kids. That's fabulous. So let me ask you a question. What are some big data things which are going through our economy right now, different demographical shifts, whatever you want to kind of share with our audience, what's fixing to happen in this downturn? Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, the first thing that big data shows me is a number called number of 18.5, 18.5%. In 1982, the Fed increased interest rates so quickly that the average mortgage on a 30 on a single family home was 19.5%, 18.5%. And so most people today, today the average mortgage, and we're recording this on August 15th, the average mortgage is roughly 5.3%. And I have people telling me that the sky is falling, that this is the end of the world. And I want to remind them that what big data says is that when back in 1982, we went all the way up to 18.5% in interest rates, home prices declined for 3 months by 10%, then increased for 3 months by 10%, and ended the 1982 recession higher than they started it. That's what data tells us, right? And that was at 18.5%. We're currently at 5.3%. So the first thing that big data tells us is that this hyperventilation that we are seeing in the marketplace has nothing to do with data. It simply has to do with our experience in 2008. Because we saw the industry get crushed, we believe that every other instance will be like that. When the truth is that interest rate increases are absolutely normal. So and they're part of the real estate cycle. If you do not increase interest rates from time to time, you create bubbles. And when those bubbles burst, the pain is extreme. So the data tells us that increasing interest rates from time to time is actually a very healthy process that helps the market adjust and recover.
Hi, you are listening to Syndication Made Easy podcast. We will be right back after this short break.
Hi, thank you so much. This is Vinney Chopra, and thank you for subscribing to my podcast and YouTube channel and Facebook pages and all the great things, and LinkedIn. Connect with me. I come live to you every Friday at 9:30 Pacific with Vinney and Bo show. Please also look at that. And also the podcast, which is my apartment syndication made easy. The book I wrote a couple of years back became international top seller on Amazon International now. And then we like to bring great guests for you every week or twice a week sometime to give you a lot of great knowledge. So please subscribe. You give us 5-star reviews on the iTunes. The better the guests we can bring, and our ranking will go higher also. Thanks again for following us and really getting the most out of it. Please comment, like, share, because we would love to bring better and better material for you.
For example, we've seen multifamily prices go down by 8 to 12%. That's awesome. That is incredible. When we see that 8%, 6% correction, that's normal. When we never see correction, when we see prices going up, that's when bubbles are forming. So that right now we're in the middle of a correction, and that's why I know that there isn't a bubble forming. When you have bubbles forming, you don't really usually get corrections. Normal markets correct, and we're in that normal market. So that's the first piece of data that I want to share with you. The second piece, which most people don't, everyone understands this concept thing, this thing of, the Fed is increasing interest rates, and that's going to hurt us because our, mortgage is going to go up. But how many people actually study what has happened in the last 9 times that the Fed has raised interest rates? So in the last 61 years, big data shows us that the Federal Reserve raised interest rates sharply 9 times, total of 9 times. And each time it was to kill inflation, right? So, the economy runs hot, and then the Fed basically raises interest rates. So far, most people are like, yeah, okay, I think I knew that. Here's the part that no one knows. Of those 9 times, data shows us that only once, one time out of 9, did the Fed not immediately decrease rates following the increases. What the Fed does is sharp up, everybody knows this now, but sharp down. Sharp up, sharp down. This is what the Fed's raising and dropping methodology looks like. One time, the Fed failed to do so in 2007, and we ended up in the Great Depression. The current Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, actually has written articles about why the Fed should never plateau at the top. They should go up, and then they should come back down. The Fed gut punches the U.S. economy. That's what it does. It gut punches the U.S. economy and brings it to its knees because it wants to bring inflation as close to zero as possible. Not to 2%. It wants to bring it as close to 2% as zero as possible. And the moment it hits that goal, it then has to lift us back up to our feet because it took all the air out of our stomach by gut punching us. The data shows us the Fed plays both roles. It brings the economy to its knees, but it's also the organization that brings us back on our feet. And it does that by cutting interest rates. So most people that look at this, when people say to me, and I hear this on podcasts all the time, this nonsensical idea of rates are going to be high for years. The answer is, have you seen any interest rate cycles in the last 61 years where the Fed raises rates like crazy and then they stay high for 4 or 5 years? Could you please show me one such instance?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Wow. You've really taken some myth out of. A lot of truth is there. Trends are there. And what you have just demystified in front of everybody is that, hey, right now, if the interests are going a little bit higher, that's normal. It's not going to bubble up. And, that's stock market. Look at that. We had 13 years of bull. And then it had to correct.
It had to correct.
Upward trend has to correct itself,
Yes.
and that's what is happening. You're right. I mean, we could buy, you or I could not buy real estate, multifamily, just one last year and one this year. Oh my God.
Yep.
Here we were used to buying 3, 4, 5. But
I was buying 7. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, I'm just waiting for the market to become more rational.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, those naive people, young, and you and I talked about it, 1,000% increase in syndicators.
That's another piece of data, right? So we've seen this challenge where, if you look at the size of the syndication community, it's increased by over 1,000%. And that doesn't mean that a lot of investors have lost money, right? So multifamily so far has been an incredible asset class for wealth generation for investors, despite the fact that there's been a massive increase in the number of syndicators that are putting money in. Why? That's because there's been a lot of headroom in rents. We've seen incredible growth in rents. And so there's, another piece of data that I want to give you, but the third piece of data before I share rents with you, because that's really the fourth piece, is the recession, right? So everyone basically is in 2 camps. The first camp is we are already in a recession. The second camp is we are going to be in a recession. And both of these camps have an irrational amount of fear about recessions. Right? So the first thing that people should understand is just like raising interest rates is part of the cycle, recessions are part of the cycle. Recessions prevent bubbles from forming. Recessions create adjustment. And usually what happens is what I call the taxi driver syndicator. That goes out of fashion, right? So when you get to the point where the market is very hot, there's all these people that are driving taxis and Ubers and then being syndicators at night. That's not professionalism. That's not people who are dedicated. That's not people that have, entire armies of underwriters and asset managers. Those are people that are taxi drivers. And when you get to that point, a recession has to happen. And those people then get taken out of the economic cycle and the cycle becomes normal. Now, for those of you that think that we are in a recession right now, you are not data driven. We cannot possibly at this point be in a recession. We've had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. So most people are like, yeah, but I hear that whenever the economy has 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, we are in a recession. The answer is that is a rule of thumb. Mm-hmm. And a rule of thumb doesn't apply when we've just come out of a once in a century pandemic. right? So this pandemic is warping things. And so don't use rules of thumb. Instead of using rules of thumb, use actual data. There's an organization called the NBER, and the NBER's job is to declare US recessions. So Google the NBER and see what they think. What they're saying is, we cannot possibly be in a recession right now because the economy is far too strong. Unemployment is at 3.5%. That's a joint 50-year high. We have in the last 3 months, so that's July, June, and May, we've produced 1.3 million jobs in 3 months. That's an average of 433,000 jobs a month. Normally, when the economy is in a good place, it produces 150 to 200,000 jobs. So we're producing 2.5 times a normal economy and 5 to 10 times a recession economy in terms of job creation in the US. We're not losing jobs, we're gaining jobs, right? And also people might say, yeah, but these are low quality jobs. No, they're not. The newer jobs, in the last 3 months, the jobs that we produced were mostly full-time jobs, not part-time, not 5 hours a week, not 10 hours a week. And also, there's high wage inflation in the economy. Usually, wage inflation tends to be around 1.5%. People are not getting paid enough. So obviously, those jobs are not high quality. Wage inflation in the last 12 months is 5.1%. So when we look at wage inflation, not only are people getting jobs, right? But they're getting full-time jobs with significant salary increases. And so when you look at all of that, how do you basically say, okay, how can there be an inflation? And the answer for everybody is, but Neal, we've had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, right? So there must be a recession. The answer is yes. There's a problem there, but it's a very simple problem. Last year, in around June, July, every analyst in the world was saying, we are about to go through very severe supply chain challenges. So every major American company ordered as much material as they could, right? Amazon, Target, Walmart, Apple, everybody ordered and increased their stockpile of material. And so what happened was Q3 and Q4 of last year, we took growth from this year and we pulled it forward. We took this year of inventory, this year of supplies, and we pulled it forward to last year, which is why if you look at Q3 and Q4 of last year, GDP growth was double what it normally is because everyone was hoarding. And now that we have finished hoarding, now we're slowly releasing those supplies. And because we are releasing those supplies, we're not ordering new things. That's why our GDP is negative.
Yeah.
So, right? So we have 2 weird quarters followed by 2 equally weird quarters that are evening out. And that's why we have this GDP growth. If you take those 4 quarters and even them out, GDP growth is about 2%, which is very, very normal GDP growth. So something bizarre happened there, and people have to really study that. So there's no evidence that we can see, statistical evidence that shows that the US economy is in any kind of a recession. Now, I do believe, and maybe we can talk about that there's 100% chance that the economy will go into a recession, and I'm rooting for it. I am rooting for a US recession because if we don't get a recession this time, housing will become too hot.
Yeah.
So it needs correction. It needs, to moderate, and that's the effect that we are seeing in the marketplace right now. So those are kind of my top 3 or 4 big data, visions that I'm seeing. Obviously, this changes from time to time, but this is what I'm focused on right now.
I love it. Wow, very nicely, details and very understandable way, that you're able to explain this. That's the beauty of your, data, how you are able to present. And I went on your YouTube, by the way, guys, everybody should really go ahead and subscribe to Neal Bawa's YouTube channel. It's amazing. It's filled with so many great studies and very well presented ideas and all these different things. And I really want to give credit to my brother, really, really very nice, very nice. Let's talk about what I see. So you think the prospects, how about diversification? Do you have any data on the diversification of commercialization, Yeah.
So, I've been very fond of going and investing in other asset classes besides multifamily. So I've invested in student housing, I've invested in build to rent, I've invested in storage and industrial. I must say that today I'm less bullish on diversification as I was before, because what's really happened is that if you look at a 20-year snapshot, multifamily is kind of bubbly, not in a bubble, but bubbly. But other asset classes like industrial are actually even more bubbly. So when I see the delta of cap rates on industrial and how much they've decreased, right? Decreasing cap rates means increasing prices. When I compare that to multifamily, well, those cap rates have compressed a lot more.
Yes.
Self-storage cap rates have compressed a lot more. Student housing cap rates have almost compressed to multifamily level, and that's really bad because student housing is a much harder asset class to manage than multifamily is. So there's really no reason why those should be the same cap rates. So relatively looking, multifamily is, to me, still looking superior. The only exception to that rule is this new asset class that got created after 2020 called build to rent. I think that there's an incredible amount of room there. The best example that I can give you for build to rent, because this will take a long time to explain, is